Ever run out of acetate when you're ready to make your shaker cards? Well, don't worry, I've got a fun little hack for you. In today's video, we are turning a simple scrap piece of plastic into a beautiful shaker element because nothing goes to waste in our craft room. We'll be creating a clean and simple thinking of you card that brings together background stamping, stenciling, and soft ink blending, all finished off with some fun florals for that perfect touch. Hi everyone, I'm Revati and welcome to my crafty space. Let's get started. I'm so excited to play with some fun, gorgeous new goodies from the latest In My Heart release by Simon Stamp. Let me quickly walk you through what I'll be using and why I love each of these. Now, first up, we will be using the Gerbera Daisies background stamp. Now, this is a stamp set that I've used in one of my previous video. It creates those beautiful full clusters of daisies in one impression, making it perfect for filling up your panel or in our case, adding a lovely floral scene inside the shaker window. It gives you that detailed layered look without a lot of efforts. Now I will leave a link to the video where I shared two cards that I created using just this one background stamp. I will leave a link to that in the description box below. Next we have the big basket weave stencil. This one will add such a gorgeous woven texture to our background. It's perfect for that soft ink blending and adds interest without overpowering your design. Now to match the Gerbera daisies, I have this die set. This is from an older release. This is the tilted daisies die, which will cut out those two daisies. Absolutely beautiful and delicate. Now to save us some time in the video, I went ahead and off camera, I cut all the little pieces using white cardstock. And we will be adding some beautiful, very subtle ink blending to the petals and greens to the stem and yellow to our flower centers. Now this is a layering die set, so you can layer those two petals for a beautiful fuller look. One of my favorite ways to add ink blending to die cut pieces is by placing them onto my ultra sticky mat. This really helps keep everything in place, especially when you're working with delicate and intricate pieces like these flower petals. Now for these florals, I'm adding just a hint of gray to the centers of the petal and softly blending it outward towards the edges. I'm using the shade Earl, which is a beautiful mid-tone gray from the Positively Saturated Ink collection. And along with a mini ink blending brush, I will apply the lightest touch of this color right at the center, blending it about halfway through each petal. Now don't worry if the centers look a bit too dark or heavily inked. We'll be adding a small die cut piece right on top of that, which will cover most of that area perfectly. You can absolutely go bold with your color choices here. Think bright pinks, purples, or even vibrant yellows. But for this card, I decided to stay on the softer side, which is a bit different from my usual style. I really wanted to experiment with a lighter color palette, which is why I went with this subtle gray and white combination. Once I finished the petals, I cleaned my mat and then kept the delicate stems and the flower centers right on my mat and moved on to adding color to those. For the flower centers, I used citrine and zest to bring that warm, cheerful yellow, which I thought matched perfectly with the gray and the white petals. And for my stems, I used field and pine, which honestly is one of my all-time favorite green combination when it comes to ink blending on any foliage or stems like these. It gives such a natural, fresh look to any leafy elements and ties everything together beautifully. I love the blend of that softer green from field and this bright green, a dark shade of green from pine. Now that all the ink blending is done, we can go ahead and start assembling our little flowers. I did go ahead and cut the detailed daisy set twice. That's why you see so many die cut pieces here. But for this card, I'll be using only two of the flowers. The extras are perfect to save for another project, or you could even use them to decorate the insides of your card or your envelopes. Now, putting these pieces together is actually really easy. I'm just adding tiny drops of glue to the flower centers and then layering the petals, slightly offsetting them as I go. This helps create a fuller, more dimensional flower and really brings those daisies to life. Now that all the petals are in place, I will next add the yellow flower centers that we ink blended earlier right on top of each of those flowers. And you'll notice how beautifully those larger centers cover up that dark gray ink blending in the middle. So everything comes together seamlessly and looks perfectly finished. I absolutely love this yellow, gray, and white combination. It's quickly becoming one of my all time favorite color palettes. It feels so fresh, soft, and elegant, and I am really glad I stepped a little outside my usual color choices for this one. I'll go ahead and set my flowers aside, and now we can start working on the background. Now, I'm using this beautiful 6 by 6 inch stencil, and I'll be stamping it onto a white cardstock panel. I really wanted to keep the color palette within that soft yellow, gray, and white combination, so I chose flannel, which is the lightest shade of gray that I have in my stash. I did stamp the background twice onto that white panel just to get a cleaner and more even impression. It might look a little darker right now, but trust me, it softens quite a bit as the ink dries. And once the whole card comes together, that gray settles into the most beautiful subtle background. I absolutely love how this background turned out, and honestly, it is one of those designs you could use in so many ways, not just behind the shaker window. This color combination would look absolutely stunning even as a full cut front on its own. I'll set the panel aside for now and let's move on to our card front. For this, I'll be creating a heart-shaped window. I'm using the nested rounded hearts die set from Simon's Stamp. This is from one of their older releases, which is why you'll notice that the dies are still tapped together. Thankfully, the newer set comes with separate dies, which is such a game changer. You don't have to snip it every time you get a new package die. Now for my panel, I use the second largest die from the die set and cut a window slightly towards the left hand side of my main panel. This will give us a nice focal point for our shaker element while leaving room to build around it, which is where we will be placing our floral elements. So basically we have two focal point elements in just one card front. Now here's the reasoning behind placing the window on the left hand side. This way, the shaker window sits nicely on one side of the panel, leaving a blank space free. That empty area is perfect for adding a beautifully die cut and ink blended daisies, which will really balance the design and bring the whole card together. Now, even though I have already assembled the petals and added the flower centers, I haven't attached the stems yet. I like to wait until the very end once the shaker is in place and the card front is assembled, so I can see exactly how much space each of those flowers need and where the stems should go. That way everything fits perfectly and looks balanced. Normally, if I was making a traditional dimensional shaker card with acetate, I'd place the acetate behind the window and use some foam tape to pop that panel. But since I was out of acetate this time, I decided to repurpose some waste plastic that I had from some packaging. Because why let it go to waste, right? Now we are going to turn it into our shaker pocket. Now, if I had used foam tape, I'd normally line the heart with it so that the shaker elements stay perfectly inside the window. But since we are skipping that step, here's what I did instead. I cut the background panel to measure slightly larger than the heart window and then created a pocket using the plastic wrap. This way, the shaker pieces stay contained and still get that fun interactive element without needing any acetate. To create the shaker pocket, I start by adding double-sided tape along two opposite sides of my panel. I press them down to seal those edges completely, make sure they are absolutely tight and snug. Next, I add tape to the remaining two sides, but this time I'll seal only one side. This leaves an opening so we can fill the pocket with our shaker elements before sealing it completely. Since we are working with plastic, I prefer using double-sided tape instead of liquid glue. Liquid glue can take a long time to dry, and with plastic, it has a tendency to ooze out and create a mess. Double-sided tape, on the other hand, sticks instantly and keeps everything neat, making it a perfect choice for techniques like this. Now that our shaker pocket is ready, I'm going to add the chunky glitter mix. Now this is a subtle, elegant mix that adds just the right amount of sparkle without overpowering the background or that soft ink blended floral die cut piece. It gives the shaker a fun, eye-catching shimmer while keeping the overall design light and delicate. I'll add some scoops of this glitter mix using a little spatula or spoon that I have in my stash, and then we can make sure that the amount of glitter mix is as much as we require, and then remove the backing from the last edge of the shaker pocket and seal the pocket completely. I like to use my scissors to snip off any of that extra plastic that is hanging off the edge, and with that, our edge to edge shaker pocket is ready. If I were using the entire background panel for my card front, I would absolutely use it to create a full edge to edge shaker card. I think that would look absolutely stunning. The soft gray pattern combined with the subtle shimmer would really make this design pop. So we have our die cut florals ready, the shaker window is ready, but the card front with that heart window also needed some love. So I bought in the big basket weave stencil and added a touch of yellow around the heart. Now this blending is intentionally imperfect. I just took some citrine ink on a large ink blending brush and lightly applied it in random corners of the panel. The goal was to create a soft, subtle, and light, unfinished ink blended look that adds warmth and interest without overpowering the entire design. I really do love creating clean and simple cards. That's mostly my go to style. But I have to say, this is probably the very first time I've worked with such a light color palette, keeping it just to these three colors. We have white, yellow, and gray. It's definitely unusual for me, but I really enjoyed experimenting with something soft and subtle like this. Now that all our elements are ready, it's time to assemble everything onto a card base. I'm using a top folded A2 size card base for this one, and we will start by attaching the shaker window first. To make sure that the shaker pockets align perfectly with the die cut heart, I first added some double sided tape to the back of the pocket. Then I held the pocket and the front panel together with a bit of washi tape and gently pressed them down onto our card piece. This ensures everything is lined up just right. Now, since our shaker pocket is slightly smaller than the panel, we cannot just glue the card front down directly. It would be a little wobbly. So to get a clean crisp finish, I added foam tape around the edges of the card front. This will not only pop up our window, but will also create enough space between the window and the sparkling shaker bits in the background, so everything moves freely and looks perfect. Now that our shaker window is in place, we can go ahead and add our floral die cuts and our sentiment strip. For the sentiment, instead of stamping and creating my sentiment label, I am using the Excel Reverse Friendship Easy Strips. Now this is a set. This is a pack of 4 of these sheets of sentiments which is printed on a black toner paper. This makes them perfect for foiling if you want to add a metallic touch to your sentiment strips. I'll be using the coordinating rounded edge die to cut all of these sentiments at once, which is super convenient. I really love having sets like these because they make card making so much more faster and easier. Everything is ready to go. You just pick the sentiment that fits your design and then you're done. For our card today, I will be using the sentiment that says, thinking of you. I use some liquid glue to adhere our floral pieces in place. The shaker window still has a bit of open space, so it's totally fine if some of those petals hang slightly over the edge of the heart. Now, if you prefer, you could add tiny pieces of foam tape to hold them more securely, but I think I'll leave it as is. Once I positioned my first flower where I wanted, I added a delicate stem underneath the flower, then placed the second flower just below it. I did trim a little bit off the stem of my second flower to make sure everything fits perfectly on the card front. For my sentiment, I added a small piece of foam tape in the center and used liquid glue along the edges. This way, the height is balanced and it sits perfectly with the rest of the layered elements. I just love how all these elements came together: the soft ink blending, delicate die cuts, and subtle background stamping, and that black sentiment strip really pops against it all. It gives the card just the right amount of contrast. Initially, I thought of adding sequins around the flowers, but then I considered some splatters instead. By this point, traditional watercolor splatters felt a little too late, and I only wanted very subtle touch of black. So instead, I went with faux splattering, a technique I absolutely love for adding controlled minimum amount of splatters on my card front. All you need is a black gel pen, marker, or even an alcohol based pen, and you can add tiny dots randomly across your card front. It gives the look of splatter without the mess and unpredictability of real watercolor. And there we have it, our clean and simple Thinking of You shaker card, complete with soft ink blending, delicate die cut flowers, a subtle stencil background, and a fun faux splatter finish. I love how the yellow, gray, and white color palette came together. It's soft, elegant, and a little different from my usual style, but so refreshing. If you enjoyed this project, don't forget to check out the other videos in my playlist where I share more tips, tricks, and creative ideas using these latest products. Now, please note that all of the supplies that I used to create this card will be listed down in the description box below. Please note that all of these links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I'll get a small commission at no cost to you guys. Thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.